Alright guys, yo, what's up? I'm back. Long time no see. Sorry for the wait. I know y'all miss me. I just have finals and a whole bunch of other stuff I had to do. But, we back with the semi-consistent uploading. And today I want to talk about, something that's been on my mind, but some little pretext to it. So I've recently been catching up with manga that I've been meaning to finish reading, start reading, things of that nature, right? And one of the manga was Jujutsu Kaisen. I just caught up to, I didn't really catch up. I just finished the fight where Fushiguro was fighting Reggie, I believe. It was Fushiguro versus Reggie, and Yuta right now is about to fight the dude with the cannon out for hair, and the girl that can manipulate the sky. But I wanted to talk about something that I've been seeing a lot recently, especially on the Jujutsu Kaisen subreddit, which is who's gonna be taking down the big bads. And I think before we even talk about who's gonna be taking down the big bads, I think we gotta focus on who are the big bads. So I believe that Kenjaku's definitely the big bad, right? I think Kenjaku is definitely a final villain. He's on his Aizen timing right now, going around doing his side quests. He met up with the Chinese embassy for some reason. He met up with one of Yuji's friends from back at school. We also have Sukuna, a possible endgame villain. It's been that was the original plan, I think, based on how the first couple arcs were going, was that Sukuna is going to be the endgame villain. But I don't know how well that's going to work out, because even Gojo, even at the beginning of the story, Gojo really didn't care much about Sukuna. Even with the possibility of Sukuna getting all of his fingers attaining full power, it didn't really phase Gojo, which I want to talk about that too, but also with Sukuna. And then, what's his face? The dude's barrier. Tengen. Because Tengen is still kind of a mystery. And plus, based on the Gojo backstory arc, right? They did say if Tengen didn't get his vessel, he would kind of be corrupted, and he never got the vessel. You remember, his vessel got killed. The star vessel got killed by Toji, so he never got the vessel. So we don't know even if he is corrupted. And when Megumi was talking to Reggie at the very end of their fight, it was kind of insinuated that maybe Tengen isn't telling the 100% truth. Maybe he might be working with Kenjaku. I don't think Gege Akutami said that just to say that. He probably put that in the back of our minds. But first, let's talk about Kenjaku, right? So that's the first person I said. I believe that Kenjaku definitely is the main villain. Like I said, he's on his Aizen stuff, all of that nature, right? The question is, who's going to be the one to take down Kenjaku? I think there's a couple of theories, right? Number one, we don't even know Kenjaku's inherent power, because based on what Kenjaku has done so far, it's more or less been Geto's powers, and Kenjaku's been in control of it. And we don't even know if Kenjaku's really that much. I mean, we know he's a fighter because he used Uzumaki pretty freely and, kind of dusted them all up. But he just might be trying to change the world in some way, shape, or form, and he might not be just a regular fighter. But I think the top three possibilities for who's taking down Kenjaku. Number one is Gojo. I'm assuming as soon as Gojo is freed from the prison realm, the cube, he is going to take out Kenjaku, do some way, shape, or form. Because I do know as soon as Gojo is freed, if he's not in any sort of physical harm, but he shouldn't be, right? Because while he was in the cube, he said time stopped, more or less. There's no such thing as time in the cube. So we do know when Gojo does get released, it's probably a couple of seconds for him compared to the outside world. But it's not far off to think that Gojo will probably dust him up slime him out as soon as he's freed. unless Kenjaku no longer is in possession of the cube when Gojo is freed. But it's not hard to think about that. Oh, that also reminded me, because Mahito isn't technically dead. So that's also something to look out for, that we finally get in a true Mahito v Yuji rematch. Because remember, at the end of Shibuya, Kenjaku absorbed Mahito. He didn't necessarily kill him, because Geto's whole entire ability is that he can re-spit out his the curses that he's absorbed. But Gojo is definitely a possibility. Will I think that happen? Not necessarily. Because I think Gojo is supremely confident enough in the fact that he could kill him, and will probably leave it to like Yuji or someone else I'm about to name next. Because he's done that before with a lot of special grades. If he's confident enough that you can do it, he'll probably let you do it. He'll step in, things of that nature. Such as, even at the beginning where you let Megumi find the fingers, the special grade. 2 special grades actually. The special grades that Yuta fought in Jujutsu Kaisen 0. So, when he let Yuta fight Geto, so again, will Gojo interfere? Who knows? The next character, which I think is probably the most plausible for who's going to take out Kenjaku, is Yuta Okutsu. Because, I mean, it's been stated multiple times, Yuta stated multiple times that he wants to be the one to take out Kenjaku because he doesn't want Gojo to kill his friend again. This, that nature. He already has a disdain for Geto, so seeing him again is pretty much a big problem. I think that's more Yuta's fight. And what I see a lot on subreddit, as I mentioned earlier, what I've been seeing a lot is that Yuta is going to die. That the one like main character death is gonna be Yuta's, if not Kugisaki's, but I don't think Kugisaki's dead. I definitely think that with a Setsu Mouse, she might be out of commission, but is she dead? I don't know. We'll probably see her in another arc. But Yuta, I think he has the greatest chance in beating Kenjaku or fighting Kenjaku at the end. I'm looking for like a culling games. That's probably when he's going to be fighting Kenjaku, is definitely at the end of the culling games, unless Kenjaku does some other stuff, absorbs the Hogyoku. But I think Yuta has the greatest chance of fighting him. It will make more sense thematically, story-wise, for Yuta to fight Kenjaku. Now, whether or not he kills Kenjaku is another story, because it's based off the Kenjaku when he was in his previous body, Kenjaku when he was in Yuji's mom. We don't essentially know how he died, if he just dies in general or if he just keeps on going on. Because he has something to do with reincarnation. After all, when he reincarnated in a bunch of old Jujutsu Sorcerers for the culling games. So even like can Kenjaku even die? Are they gonna seal him into the prison cube, the prison domain, or the prison dimension, whatever? We don't know. And I think the last character, which I think is not the case, is Yuji. So I'm not gonna say Yuji is weak. I know a lot of people are saying that Yuji is weak, especially after his fight with, I don't want to butcher his name, Hagirumo, right? Higuruma. My fault, bro. Higuruma. And people really said that Yuji was weak from that fight, but I mean, like, because Yuta more or less defeated like 4, honestly, like 4 grade 1 or higher. Special grade 1, the special grade to sorcerers and curses with relative ease, and it was a more or less a 1v4, 1v2 at one point. And even Megumi defeated Reggie, who was a grade, I would probably say grade 1, maybe higher. But granted, Megumi did use his domain expansion. He had to use his domain expansion in order to win, and it was like a 3v1 at one point that turned into a 2v1. So again, but like with Yuji, like number one, he couldn't even fight because of Higuruma's domain expansion and his cursed ability. So he couldn't even fight. But even the fact without a curse technique, and keep in mind, Higuruma did only have his curse technique. He only knew about all this for 12 days, and in those 12 days it said he was equatable to a grade 1 or higher sorcerer with like over 20 deaths to his name during the culling games. So like he ain't no pushover. Like I think y'all need to understand that. Like Yuta probably could have beaten him in terms of like even Megumi probably couldn't even have beaten him because of how much Megumi relies on his domain expansion. Like even actually Yuta probably, I think like that was probably the perfect fight with Yuji. But I mean, yeah, he did kind of let Yuji win. I understand that because he could have hit him with the one shot, but he chose not to. But still, I don't think Yuji may not have gotten hit by that because Yuji wasn't. Higuruma is visually surprised to himself. He was like, "Oh man, how could Yuji have stood up against me?" So I think the whole entire like Yuji's too weak enough to fight Kenjaku. I think that whole entire case is completely asinine. I think he's still weaker than Kenjaku. I think he's still got a long way to go. I think in terms of like the 3-year ones, Megumi is definitely the strongest. Now I'll probably say Yuji, then I'll say Kugisaki. But I don't think Yuji will fight Kenjaku more like a thematic sense, because again, you have to have the main character, you have to give him a reason to fight Kenjaku, which Yuji more or less doesn't until probably he tells him about his mom. But Yuji more or less does not have a reason, any strong moral, any strong conviction as of right now to fight Kenjaku. Because I mean, even though he sealed Gojo, it doesn't. He sealed him. He didn't kill him. He sealed him. So I mean, he could fight him to get the cube back, but still, it's not. There's no really strong conviction there that gives him any reason to fight Kenjaku or that be the final fight. Because I mean, like again, like Goku versus. If we look at like Goku versus Frieza, right? Goku had ample reason to fight Frieza. If we look at like Ichigo versus Aizen or Ichigo versus Yuha, he had ample reason to fight them. If we look at Gon versus Pito, ample reason to fight. Like, you gotta give them ample reason to fight the final villain, which Yuji doesn't really have of Kenjaku, which leads into the next character being Sukuna. I think that's going to be Yuji's fight. I really do think that's going to be Yuji's fight. He's going to definitely fight Sukuna. He has ample reason to fight Sukuna. But is Sukuna going to be a villain, though? Because I was thinking about this, right? Sukuna doesn't... Yes, Shibuya, he killed a lot of people, but Sukuna more or less does not go out his way to kill people, if that makes any sense. Like, you can't talk at him, because then you will die, because he did it with Jogo and he did it with the 2 kids that Geto rescued. But again, he doesn't really go out his way to kill. Like, even when he encountered like Panda, the dude with the sword, I forgot his name, and he told him to freeze in place, he still let him go at the end. He could have told him to sit there and wait and watch all of them get killed, but he didn't. And even when he massacred everybody in Shibuya, it was more or less an offshoot of him fighting. Because again, he tried to rescue Megumi. And he uses domain expansion, and again, his domain expansion is pretty much beyond his control. Like, everything in the domain is dying. He doesn't really have control over that, so it's just a result of people dying because of that. But I think there's some ulterior. I don't think Sukuna is necessarily evil. I don't think he's necessarily joining Kenjaku's side. I think he has some sort of deal with Kenjaku, because again, that's how Yuji was able to get into the culling games relatively easily, because Sukuna was pretty much already in the culling game. So, I mean, Sukuna is going to be resurrected regardless, which is also interesting, that I don't think anybody was really talking about. The fact that whether or not Yuji actually ate the thing, I don't think it mattered, because again, Sukuna was going to be resurrected regardless for the culling games. So I think all that's interesting. And I think I don't think Sukuna is going to be any sort of final villain, but I think if he is, I think the person to kill him is definitely going to be Yuji. Again, if it's the story, if it's thematically, how Yuji's probably going to be the one to take out Sukuna, and then we really see an increase in Yuji's skill from when he first fought Sukuna in his mind and died, and then he fights Sukuna again at the very end to see what he does. But I think we do need to see a lot more of what Yuji can do, because we really haven't seen a lot of it. He doesn't have a curse technique, unless you want to count Divergent Fist, which he barely doesn't really use anymore. It's really all just sheer power, which isn't a bad thing, because I mean, if we look at characters like Toji or Maki, you know, having sheer power isn't really that bad, as Maki was able to solo the Zen clan, the strongest clan at that point. Toji pretty much soloed the two strongest characters in the series at that point. He killed Gojo and messed up Geto. So again, just sheer physical ability isn't really that bad. But I think we do need to see some sort of improvement. I think we are going to see Yuji get some sort of domain expansion. I think also, like, his power comes from him being the son of Kenjaku, or daughter of Kenjaku. I don't really know how that's gonna work when they touch on that, but son or daughter. Or no, that sounds stupid, bruh. My fault. But the son of Kenjaku, and I think Yuji just overall just needs like a super big power up till he fights. But yeah, that's all I just wanted to talk about for the day. The potential endgame villains for Jujutsu Kaisen, what I think that we could potentially expect from these upcoming arcs, the ending of the culling game, because we do know Gege is trying to wrap up the story. So I think we got a couple more arcs left. I don't think it's going to be too long. But yeah, thank you all for listening to me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't, you don't got to do all that. You feel me? But yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.